the 7-word question that every inventor has to be able to answer. What are those 7 words, you ask? Hey, it's Don Skaggs again with Empowered Inventing, the place where we try to help you take your idea and put legs on it, really turn it into something real. Now today, I want to talk to you about those 7 words, that 7-word question that every inventor has to be able to answer. What are those 7 words, you ask? Can you show me how it works? Because so many of us as inventors and entrepreneurs, we come up with this great idea. Maybe we're in the shower, maybe we're in a restaurant, and there's a napkin. We write it all down furiously on this napkin. We sketch it all out, and we think, oh, I've got a great idea. I need to write this down. And you go home and maybe you scribble it on some scrap paper. And then maybe you go from that and you sort of write it out maybe in a notebook, or you type it up on a Word doc. And so now you're kind of writing it out, and maybe it's growing a little bit. That's a good thing. And maybe you think of some more things. Oh yeah, well, what if I did this? Well, what if I did that? And so now you're writing a little more, and that's very, very important. It's important to document. We've got, again, a whole class about that we teach on documentation. But you have to learn beyond that. But let's say you're just, you're getting into it and you're writing these things down, and you're thinking of improvements you can make, and you're writing some more. Again, that body of work, and every time you add something to your invention, it increases the value of it. So you're writing all this down. But at some point, you've got to be able to answer that question. Can you show me how it works? Because at that point, at some point you've got to build a prototype. You've got to be able to prove 2 things. Number 1, can you show someone else can you show yourself how it works? Can you prove that to yourself? Not just in paper, not just in theory, but an actual physical object. And then, can you show someone else how it works? And those are 2 types of prototypes. We call them the Franken-type and the demo type. The Franken-type is where you've, again, snuck out to the graveyard of broken products and spare parts. You've used glue sticks and duct tape. The thing is ugly as sin, but it's an invention, it's a prototype that only an inventor could love. But you're proving one thing, and you're doing it without spending a lot of money, and you're proving, is it going to work just like I pictured it in my head and just like I'd written it out on paper. And what a lot of inventors are surprised with is when they start building it, it's like, oh wow, when I was writing this down, I was just sure it was going to work like this, and it's not working like this at all. And so then they have to break it down and make another one. And then they learn a little more, and they're saying, well, that sort of worked a little bit, but it really didn't do what I really wanted it to do. So let me try again. You break that one down and you make another one. And it's destroy, build, test, repeat. Usually repeat, because it'll fail. Certain parts of it'll fail, or it'll teach you things that you would have never thought of before until you turned it into a 3-dimensional object. That's the Franken-type. You are proving it to yourself, but you're going to learn things. Now, a lot of inventors, unfortunately, they've got this idea and they write it all down, they scribble it all down on some notes, and they've got this perception in their head that I'm going to take this to some guy, I'm going to take this on Shark Tank, and they're going to give me $1 million. Yeah, that might happen. You also might get struck by lightning, you might win the lottery, or you may find a suitcase of money on the street. That's likely not going to happen, though. Most of the time, you have to be able to show how it works. There was a story of a guy one time flew overseas to a client, and he'd built his prototype, and he'd waited all day in this lobby. I mean, they just, it was like they're saying, well, he'll get with you whenever he can get with you. And so he just waited, and everybody was coming through the lobby, was showing his prototype to, was showing his protected invention that was a prototype, and the protection's a whole other piece, of course. But you've had some level of protection, so you're able to show your prototype. So there he was in the lobby, and he was showing his prototype, and people, the secretary, anybody who'd listened to him, basically, and he waited all day, and finally, the buyer comes out and he says, you got 30 seconds. So what did he do? He set the prototype down, he turned it on, it worked, and the guy was sold. Why? Because he was able to, in that 30 seconds, immediately show him how it worked in a way that he never could trying to explain it to him. And a lot of times when we try to explain it, we lose our buyers in the weeds. We lose our potential customers. And so you have to be able to show them how it works. And that demonstrable prototype, and we talked about the Frankentype, you're proving it to yourself. Once you get it proved to yourself, and once it's working just really, really, really well, and you know, okay, I've got this down pat, this thing is humming, it's doing actually it's doing things I didn't even think it could do. And it's working really well, but it's still ugly because it's glue sticks and duct tape. Now you start making a pretty one. Okay, let me, how can I make this, but I can make it much, much prettier? And that might cost a few dollars more, and that's okay. As long as you're within your budget, you've got a budget that you're after, and you're spending the money wisely. But you go to that demo type. And the demo type, just like it sounds, it's for demonstration. You're showing other people. And you're showing them in a way, maybe you're putting on a video, maybe you're taking it for live demonstrations. Maybe you're doing a lot of different things with a demo type, but you're taking it out there. Now, a whole nother ideation of failure and rebuilds happens with the demo type. And that because you're taking it out to people and they're saying, well, I really don't care about that part of it, but this part over here, if you built this onto it, I'd pay double. I'd pay a lot of money for that. And now you got to go back and say, I thought I had this thing perfect. Here I made this pretty demo type, and now you've got to take it back again and you say, okay, well, let me see if I can build it the way this buyer says he will buy it if it's this way. And so now you're back to rebuilding it again. So you've got all these iterations that happen when you're proving it to yourself, and then with the Frankentype, and you've got all these other iterations you're going through with the demo type. And this isn't a long process. Again, don't make this a decade-long step. This is a little step. You're going through these iterations, but you're going through them as fast as you possibly can, because you want to get to that point where you've got that buyer, you've got that licensor, you've got that buyer, you've got that customer hooked because you have solved their problem, and they are just loving you because you have really solved it well, solved it just the way they wanted because you've built it to what they really wanted, not to what you wanted. And again, that's another big piece of it. So anyway, I'm Don Skaggs. This is Empowered Inventing. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure and click subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out our website, empoweredinventing.com, and I will look to see you at the next meeting, workshop, maybe one of our online classes, or on the next video.